Hello. Sorry, woman. I didn't mean to record you. I didn't know you were there. Hi, everybody. Here's another recording from me. I'm currently sat in my car. I've just been to a Beats meeting. Now, Beats is an initiative set up by the NHS and the government in the UK. Basically, I had to have an operation on my hip last year, and after physio I got referred to the Beats Centre, which basically gives me discounted gym access, and they give me specific exercises and routines to go through to make sure that my leg is getting better and to improve my overall fitness, because as you can see, I got a little bit of flesh. So good results so far. I've lost a stone so far, which is good. I am happy about it. Not losing as much as I want to be losing so far, but they think I might have an overactive thyroid. So rather than me Googling it, it would be great if anyone who has that could send me a comment or a message and let me know what your opinions are of treatment, what it's like for you, whether it causes you any setbacks. Literally tell me anything, because I just kind of need to know. Going to book an appointment with the doctors, but it would be great if I had some feedback before I go in so that I know exactly what I'm walking into. You know, I might get there and I might not have an overactive thyroid. I might just be fat. But if I am, it would be nice to know the options, basically. So other than that, I don't really know what else to talk about, to be honest. But I'll tell you about my leg, actually, just in case there's anybody out there who is possibly going through the same thing, because it took me 2 years to have the issue recognised and resolved. So basically, for years and years before I even went to the doctors and started the whole thing of getting it diagnosed, I had issues with my hip, and it felt like it was literally right in the groin, and it was horrendous. Basically, I'd be going to work, and I've worked in different places, and it's been the same no matter what I've done. So I'd worked in an office, sat down for most of the day, then I'd get home and I'd start walking around a little bit, and I'd get this horrible creasing pain in my right hip. I just thought, it's because you sat down all day, your muscles aren't being used. Sorry about these stupid hairs. I have no idea what is going on with them. I just thought it's because I'm sat down all day. Obviously, you're just not using the muscles, so something's trapping, and that's what's causing you pain. Moving on a couple of years, I then started working in a nursery with children in childcare, and I would work with them all day. Didn't really get much pain, odd twinge here and there, didn't bother me, it went away dead quick, absolutely fine, carried on as usual. Then at that point I didn't have a car, so I would then walk home from work. It wasn't that far, about 15-minute walk, and I'd be in agony, absolute agony. And it'd vary. It'd either set off within 5 minutes of me leaving work, or it could be 10 minutes into the journey and I'm halfway home, and I was in agony. Honest to God, I've never felt pain like it, and I didn't understand. And I'd have to stop, whether it was raining, burning sunshine. I had to stop because I just couldn't walk anymore. And to get home, it was a slight uphill, so again, that was possibly what was making it worse. I just thought, oh, I'm just out of shape. I've been on my feet all day. Maybe it's just flared up, and again, just probably something just trapped. So I'd met my partner in between those two jobs, and so he knew about this pain. We'd go on like nice little country walks, go for a walk around like, I don't know, Hollingworth Lake or something like that. And I wouldn't be able to get all the way around. No matter what I'd been doing beforehand, whether I'd done nothing or something, doesn't matter. I wouldn't be able to get all the way around. I would struggle and force myself to get all the way around to get back to the car, but I was literally in agony. Honestly, I was having to sit down. He was worrying about me because he was like, well, what is it? Like, this isn't normal. So eventually he basically said, right, you're going to the doctors. You need to find out what this is because it's not normal. So that brought us up to the beginning of finding out what the hell was wrong with me. Went to the doctors. They described the pain, when it came on, when it happened, and they were like, have you noticed a pattern? And I was like, well, other than when I'm walking, no. And they were like, right, does it come during your time of the month? I was like, not specifically, but yeah. And they were like, right, well, we're going to send you for some tests. So they sent me for an ultrasound scan, but obviously to not look at a baby in the womb because there was no baby there. It was to look a bit further down. They did check the womb while I was there, which was fun with that woman because she just didn't want to tell me anything. I was nervous as hell because at the time I was, 18, 19? Never had an ultrasound before. Didn't know what was wrong with me. Then panicking that it was something more serious. Gave me no help in that regard. She was just like, nope, just scanning you and your doctor will tell you. I was like, oh, well, but does things look all right? And she was like, I can't tell you anything. You've got to go to your doctor. I'm like, right, okay, no worries. Don't make me feel better about it. I'll just suffer. Thanks, love. Sorry. I still get a little bit upset about that. I don't knock the NHS does a really good job, but some of the staff that they have, I know that they're stretched, but they need to think about who they're talking to because I was terrified, and I had reason to be. So I found out. So obviously left that ultrasound, went back to the doctor when the results came in, and I ended up seeing a trainee doctor. Which I thought, well, that's fine. She's training. I don't have a problem with that because they kind of asked me beforehand. I was like, yeah, it's fine. She's only giving results. It's fine. So go and see this trainee. She basically says, right, so they've done this ultrasound. We don't think it's linked to your leg. We don't think that your time of the month is flaring it up or anything or causing it. But you do have polycystic ovaries, but we don't think it's linked at all. We also have got your pills in for your diagnosis of depression and anxiety from the last meeting. So I'm just kind of sat there like, what? I honestly didn't even know what to say because then she got up and she was like, oh, I'm just going to go and get those pills for you, that prescription for you. I'll be back in a minute. So I'm then literally, 19 years old, sat in a doctor's room, having just been told that I have polycystic ovary syndrome, and that's 2 weeks after finding out that I also have depression and anxiety. Kind of knew that I had that anyway, but being diagnosed is kind of the next step. It's kind of confirmed your own doubts and suspicions, but my main point was I have polycystic ovaries. I wasn't even checking for that. What does that mean? I literally had no idea what that meant. The first thing that popped in my head was, oh my God, I can never have children. At the time, I was 19. I'd never had a discussion about polycystic ovaries before in my life. It wasn't something that we covered in school. I'd never even heard of it. So the doctor came back, gave me the prescription, and sent me on my way. So I didn't know what to do. I walked out of the doctor's. I walked down the road because I was supposed to be going back into work after this appointment at one of the nurseries. And I literally sat on the bench for about half an hour and cried. There was just, literally there's a bench in the middle of my village. I just sat on the bench and I cried and cried. I rang my partner. I was crying down the phone to him, and he was like, what is wrong? What's happened? Thinking obviously the worst, because I can't get any words out because I'm just mortified, crying my eyes out. Eventually I managed to calm myself a little bit to say, I've got polycystic ovaries, I'm not going to be able to have kids. I literally had this massive explosion to him, and he was just like, oh, so what? And obviously I was still crying, and he did the right thing. He did definitely, honestly, he's the most amazing person. He just turned around and he went, Jess, it doesn't matter. I know it feels like it matters, but we can work through it. We will find out what it means for us in the future. If we can have kids but we need medications or injections or a little bit of help, then we'll have that. If it means that we can't have children, then we will look at that, we will approach it. But I know full well that you won't mind adopting. I know it's not the same, but I'm happy to adopt as well. We will foster, we will adopt, we will have children whether they're ours or not, because they will be ours. And obviously at that point, I burst out crying again, because I was like, you're just amazing. But, so yeah, and then I went back into work, and the managers were like, so what's gone on? So then I burst out in tears again, told them the whole thing, and the managers were very understanding, actually. I couldn't knock them that day. They've been idiots before, but that day they were amazing. They said, look, like, they've obviously not given you answers, go back to the doctors. So I went back to the doctors and basically demanded another appointment with someone else, which my manager actually rang the doctors and was like, look, she needs another appointment now. So went back over, managed to have another appointment with a lovely, lovely doctor. Honest to God, she couldn't have helped me anymore if she tried. She was amazing. And she explained it all to me, and then said, look, we'll still do investigations into the leg, but what we'll do is we'll send you to physio and see if it's just a case of your strength and things like that. So a couple of months go by, get the physio letter, go to physio. So I'm going to physio, they do a bunch of tests. They say, oh, you have mild hypermobility, which for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's basically overflexibility in your joints and things like that. So like I can do things like this and touch my thumb to my wrist. So yeah, there's more complicated things than that. But so then she thought, oh, well, that's probably what's causing you pain, is your hypermobility in your hip, blah, blah. Went through physio for 6 months, didn't get any better. If anything, it got worse. So then sent me back to the doctors. Doctor said, right, we're going to send you for a scan. So I went for an MRI scan. I think that's the big donut one. Yeah, that was terrifying. Sat in there for half an hour and basically had to have that, and they saw something, but it was small, so they couldn't really tell what it was. So then went for an X-ray kind of thing, but it had to have dye injected into my thigh, into my actual hip joint. They literally put a needle into my hip and injected this dye in, which I watched them do. I honestly don't know how I watched them do that, but I did. I've just developed an immunity to anything medical now. You could literally chop my arm off and sew it up and I'd still watch you, because I've had enough. I'm just fine. Do what you want. Give me the needle, I'll take my own blood. Like, it's fine. Sorry, I know a lot of people are afraid of needles. Apologise. So went for that, and basically I had a abnormality on my thigh bone. Now, luckily it wasn't anything like cancerous or anything like that. Basically, my thigh bone had overgrown. So I had extra bone growing on my thigh bone. Now, if you think of your hip joint, you've got your hip and then the ball of your leg. So I had extra bit of bone there on this scan, and it was tearing the cartilage, because you have a piece of cartilage in between so that the ball can move and stuff, and so the bones aren't rubbing together. Basically, it was cutting my cartilage open every time that I was having that pain. That's why it was excruciating. So, and the physio was making it worse because it was putting me in awkward positions that was then catching. So yeah, big mistake there. Went for a meeting with a specialist, which I then got referred to another specialist and another specialist, because so many people were interested in my case, because basically it's called a labral tear. This tends to be something that only happens with either extremely old people or athletes, because obviously the movements that they're doing. So they were particularly interested in my case as to why I had this labral tear, which obviously because I had the extra bone, which they didn't fully understand at first. So I then had a X-ray lead injection, I think it was a cortisone injection, directly into the hip joint again, into the cartilage. And it worked for a month. But to be fair, it was over Christmas, so it was great. I literally had no pain over Christmas and New Year. It was great. I was out every night. But then in February, I went back, did a review. Obviously, it wasn't working anymore. I was getting the pain again. Was told, well, the next step is an operation. Now, I've never had an operation before. I've literally before that, the only thing I'd ever had done was a broken toe. That's it. I'd broke a toe. I'd never broke any other bone in my body. I'd literally had nothing medical at all, other than teeth out. Like, yeah. So, went to hang on a minute, I can see my answer, bear with me.